Hey everybody, it's Dr. Carmen Bryan. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Those of you that are new to my channel, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for adding to this awesome tribe. I was asked today, well, I've been asked several times, and I said that I was going to make a video concerning like military and narcissists. And as some of you know, or some of you may not know, I am U.S. Army retired, and I know there are many different branches of service that are here on YouTube. And so when I speak, I'm going to speak, with the Army lingo. I'm going to say soldiers, but I mean that with all heartfelt love to all my service members and those of you that have served alongside with us. That's Marines and Navy, Air Force, and of course, the Navy and Coast Guard, Air Force. I'm sorry, let me get the branches right: Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Coast Guard is actually a part of the Homeland Security. So the four branches of service is the Army, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, Coast Guard, just in that order. And so to all you guys, I send my love to you guys. So when I speak, though, I'm going to speak with the Army lingo. And so those of you that have been in and most of you guys can relate, different rank structures, not rank structure, same rank structure, different titles. But for those of you that don't know, when you enter into the military, first of all, there's a camaraderie and a brotherhood. We kind of say brotherhood in general, but brother and sisterhood, but there's a brotherhood amongst the military service member. There's just an experience and a sense of pride that has been instilled in us, having been United States military service members and veterans. And so there's this unbroken or unspoken love and bond among service members wherever we go. Now, of course, we'll laugh and joke and argue back and forth between the different branches, but in total, in the whole, the United States military, we have a strong sense of brotherhood, a strong sense of camaraderie and family, because there are things that we have been through and things that we understand being military and how we've been trained that the average civilian has not, regardless whether they have worked civil service or not. There's just things that you've experienced that other people haven't. And so entering into the military, the first thing that happens in basic training is they strip you of the way that you think as a civilian, and then they build you back up to teach you teamwork. They teach you how to be a team. There's no such thing as an I in team, and they teach you teamwork, and they teach you rank structures. And in the military, and this is across all military, we fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. This is our legal system, and the United States court-martial manuals. We fall under those law of non-judicial and judicial punishment, and we can be punished under United States the Uniform Code, the UCMJ. Now, we also abide by the laws of wherever we are, whether it's a country or whether it's the state or the city that we're in. Of course, you fall under the laws of the United States, and the city that you're in. But normally if something happens, the civilian sector will hand it over to the military, because the military is more stringent. They're harsher when it comes to, in the punishment of crimes or punishment. Now, depending on if it's a federal crime, of course, that's federal authority that would be off the base, but the military does comply to whatever the punishment is. So having said all that, we are cultivated in the military. It's sad because we have narcissistic traits, but we are cultivated, number one, to have pride. We're taught that we are, and in a sense, and please don't get angry with me, but, we have been trained. They spent hundreds and thousands of dollars to teach us how to be service sailors, Marines, soldiers, Coast Guard, airmen, but they taught us how to be soldiers in general. They taught us, all this thousand. They teach us how to be leaders from the moment we step into the military, and they instill a sense of pride of serving in the United States military and serving the country with pride to maintain freedom and to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. So this is instilled in us, this pride in how we look, and that one person will end up representing an entire military. One person will make it bad for everybody. One person will make it, I'm sorry, you guys, my incense. Okay, so you guys don't think I'm in here smoking. I don't smoke. If one person can make everybody in the military look bad. One person can be judged, by their behavior or what they do. And then the whole United States military is judged by that one individual and what they have or have not done. But we are a sense of pride in your appearance, your timeliness, you're meticulous, your training. We are trained above the average person within a civilian sector. They spend a lot of money in teaching us how to be, managers and supervisors. And, we experience equipment and programs and things that the average person, we do more before 9 o'clock. We do more before 9 o'clock than most people do all day. Remember that commercial? That is true. We do more before 7 o'clock than the average person does before 9 o'clock. But so we're already groomed to be prideful meaning being pride of who you serve, where you serve. And when you go out, you notice that a lot of service members, they're kind of cocky. They we always tell them, don't look on the ground, don't discharge on the ground, hold your head up. You're in the United States Army, hold your head up, soldier, put your shoulders back and walk like you got a purpose, stand up and be pride, have some pride, have some, so we're that is instilled in us. Now you have people that go through, you have some that were bullied in school, maybe with an ugly duckling, and they come into the military and become this beautiful swan. You wore these thick glasses. Now all of a sudden you got contact lens. You were skinny. Now you buffed because the military buffed you up. You had bad teeth, but when you come to the military, all your teeth look good. So now you're cocky. So now if you have an individual coming in that already has narcissistic personality disorder, of course it's going to make it even worse because now they're going to make it a purpose to use that against the people that they know in the civilian world, their families and people, and we're better than you. And on top of that, now they have a steady paycheck, and most of the time we all think that military people make a whole bunch of money. And when I went out of the military and I realized, dang, we broke, but there is good benefits, good pay, good school options, good training, there's a lot of good aspects to the military. But this may be the first time that a lot of people have left home. That's their first job where they have a good job. They got benefits. They get a car for the first time. They overspend on a car. They can buy clothes for the first time. There's things that they can do that they never did before. So of course they're braggadocious, so now they're going through the military rank system. And what they find out is that is in the military, we are very, very meticulous and very serious about leadership. I don't care if you like them or not, you will respect the rank that they wear. For example, leaving, I left as a senior non-commissioned officer. The last position that I held that I worked in was that of a first sergeant. And when you go up to the position and you hold a position of first sergeant, when you walk into the room for the first time, everybody calls at ease and they stand up for you to show you respect. When you're talking to people stand up and get it parade rested. Parade rested, put your hands behind your back. Hide your hands, but put your hands behind your back. You are addressed with a title. You do have more privileges than the average junior non-commissioned officers or junior soldiers, and so that can get people pumped up and this sense of entitlement because you do get to sit in the best seats. You do get to fly. You do get this training. You are recognized. And so all this is doing is feeding, if it's a narcissist, is feeding the narcissism, that sense of entitlement. Now you have leaders, you have good leaders, but we are also trained not to make decisions based on emotions. Something that I teach you guys. We're taught that, an emotional decision can get your soldiers killed. And on top of that, if you put too much emotion in your decision, you can make some bad decisions. Bottom line up front, stick to the training, stick to the guidance, stick to the policies, understand the regulations, stick to the basics. So a lot of times that right there just feeds into narcissism because they don't have to have compassion or empathy. Some of the greatest soldiers or some of the greatest leaders are the ones that, they're no joke and they don't play and there's zero tolerance for this and zero tolerance. And a lot of them ended up being narcissists. Now it's looked upon because they, a narcissist, especially in the military, and especially as leadership, knows the you have to know the regulation. You have to know what the regulation says, but a lot of them grow up through the military, and the military is not as big as you think it is. And so there's also the buddy system. So as I'm growing up with a bunch of my peers, a lot of my peers will end up having high positions in high places. And so I can do whatever I want to because you owe me a favor, or I've done a lot of things to make sure that you look good, and you've done things, and I know about certain things you've done that may have been illegal or out of regulation, and I made sure because I held this position that I got this paperwork before it went here, and so now you owe me. And so it's like a system where a lot of times what happens is people are victims of sexual assault or military sexual assault or sexual harassment, and you wonder why they're not getting in trouble because of the fact that they have these people that are friends or buddies with them to keep them from getting in trouble. As someone has asked me, you have, and do remember that in the military, they have, when a soldier gets married, any service member gets married, they get an additional pay called basic housing allowance. Basic housing allowance is because of the fact that you're married, and it's to take care of your family. It's not for that individual person, but it's to take care of that individual person, meaning that if they separate, the military has to calculate that this is the amount of money that you are supposed to be giving that spouse to take care of that family until there's a divorce. Military does not recognize legal separations. That's something that civilians and soldiers or military service members do, but military does not recognize legal separations. You're married or you're not married. There's no such thing as being a little pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. So you're married or you're not married, and the military does not recognize legal separations. So there is under the UCMJ, there's also adultery. You can be charged. You can be put out the military. You can have you can be busted in rank. You can be forced to retire because there is under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is punishable under non-judicial and judicial law. So it is a non-judicial punishment. Article 15, separation and forced to retire. So that is punishable. That is against military law to have an affair if you can prove it. And so there is no such thing as, but we are legally separated. Look, it doesn't matter. You're still married. Military doesn't. So the thing about a person that has narcissism, and the person doesn't have to have narcissism just to manipulate the rules and regulations. But when you have those that have played in the military and they know the rules and regulations, they know just how far to go without getting themselves in trouble, especially when they're in leadership. So I've had good leadership. I've had excellent leadership that weren't just black and white, but they saw gray. And so they did implement the human aspect into the training, but then you have those that were straight black and white and were narcissists. I have had narcissistic leaders, and the narcissistic leaders doesn't look at their team, as the soldiers that are under them as a team. They look at them as my property, my possession. They're mine. What are you doing? You need to be accountable. I need to know everything about you, which is not true. They call it micromanaging, and some of it was just straight narcissism. You had those that were very cruel and harsh, and you wonder why no one ever said anything or told, because if you were to say something about this individual person, there are too many people that they know that will make you look bad, or they'll get you in trouble, or they make sure that you don't get promoted. Like I said, military is not a huge place like people think, and so they may have buddies and friends that sit in high places. For example, at the Department of wherever they do the promotions, I can't recall right now, but it's in Virginia, and it's DA, Department of the Army, but that is where the promotions take place. And this is where, the seniors look at your records and what you've done, and you submit your paperwork to be promoted to the next promotion. But if you are going after an individual that has harassed you, sexually harassed you, a lot of times what happens is they smear campaign you. And so they smear campaign you to a point where it will also affect your promotion, meaning they have people sitting in those high places where they mess with you. They keep you from being promoted. So a lot of times people won't say anything and have been hurt, have been harassed, have been abused, have been literally abused in the military, assaulted, and they can't say anything because of the people that are sitting in these particular places that are buddies. It's this buddy system. Even when it comes to ethnicity, they do have this there is racism in the military. There is. and sexism. You know, for me to be a black female and able to read and write, and I didn't eat my books. They couldn't believe that there was a such thing as a person that had a pretty face that also that was able to make it through the military without having to lay on their back. Because a lot of times what ended up happening was and that's females and males alike, would sleep their way to the top. Well, if you sleep your way to the top, you're going to have to keep sleeping your way through and maintaining what you have. And so a lot of us that were strong black females, you know, that believed in, I'm going to work for what I get, so no one can ever say it was given to me. Just because I'm pretty doesn't mean I can't read and write, or I'm not smart, or I don't know my regulation. But it makes it harder because a lot of the males that we used to be around were narcissists. And so they couldn't believe that there was a female and is competitive female versus a male leader. And so a lot of times it was very competitive. It was very hard to have to prove yourself around the men, and they will purposely sabotage. They will purposely sabotage. I had an officer who was he was the commanding officer, and he was a Caucasian male, and we had an African-American first sergeant. At that time, I think I was like a sergeant, and I was the training sergeant. And so we used to have meetings, but this commander, because in the military is aviation, and so the Black Hawk pilots were like the jocks of aviation. You know, they were jocks of aviation, because these Black Hawks, you know, they were the jocks. They were just, and so he was a narcissist. He was a narcissist, and he loved to instill fear in the leadership. So he would cuss them out. He would call them all sorts of names, idiots. I mean, we were in the middle of meetings and he would call them idiots and you're stupid. And he would just go around the table. And at that time, I still hadn't gotten all the street out of me yet. So I just had these facial, you know, and it kind of helped me too, that I wasn't 100%, you know, I wasn't going to let you push me over. You were going to get a pushback, you know, and I had to be smart because I was still learning the military. But I just had a very low tolerance of abuse, you know, and especially because I came from that background going in, I just had this low tolerance where I had to watch myself that I didn't get myself in trouble. And so I kind of, you know, I pushed the limits, but I didn't push too much. But he was just the type person that will call you. He would go around the table. And I think there was, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There was about 10 or 11 of us that used to sit at the table. And he used to go around the table and literally call people idiots, you're stupid, what are they doing? Cuss them out. And I was waiting because I'm thinking to myself, I know this fool is not dumb enough to come around the table and just cuss people out, and people were just sitting there taking this. And I had this look on my face like, I double dare you. You know, little ghetto. I still have a little ghetto in me, you know, but I double dare you. And I would just look like he's coming around the table and like, I double dare you. And he didn't do it. He didn't do it. But the problem was he couldn't figure out why I wasn't afraid of him, because everyone was afraid of him. He would come in, he would make himself really big. He would cuss people out. He would tell them to do stuff that was literally illegal, illegal stuff. Because when you're dealing with aviation, you have to be very careful, because you also have fuelers on site that deal with JP8 jet fuel for the helicopters. And so you have to be very, very careful and put grounding rods in the ground to ground the fuel tankers, so that no sparks would set off a spark and blow the tank up. And so he would just do things that would cause soldiers to be in harm's way. And I think one person stood up to him, but he literally harassed this individual, just humiliated the first sergeant. It was terrible. But he couldn't figure out like what would scare her. Why isn't she afraid of me? Well, number one, for a lot of you to know, when you come from a background of domestic violence, a lot of times certain things, your pain tolerance is high, and I think your tolerance, you know, like I double dare you, you know, I'll fight you, become a fighter. And so I think I was already had that fight in me. You know, I didn't want trouble, but I just wasn't the type that you're just going to keep harassing. And he would say things, and a lot of stuff that he was saying or doing was just illegal. And where he wanted to say, I don't like heights. I'm not a height. He's a helicopter pilot. There was no reason why I ever had to be in a helicopter with him. There is no reason. There's no mission required me to be on the helicopter with him. It didn't. And so he would ask me to get on this helicopter. Well, what I found out during that time, though, is that a lot of times what the pilots would do is they would fly the map of the earth. So some of you guys that were in aviation understand what I'm talking about. So what that means is like the helicopter flies the terrain. So instead of flying straight, they fly the terrain. And so flying the terrain oftentimes make people sick and vomit. And what he would do is they keep the back door open so that you can see the terrain while they're flying the terrain, but the motion of the helicopter and the helicopter is shaking like that. And a lot of times they had a lot of shaking in it, but a lot of times flying that terrain would cause people to throw up. So he would do it so he can see the soldiers throw up and laugh. And so he would want me to get on the helicopter, and I would tell him, no, sir, I'm not going to do that. So he would try to figure out, well, you need to go pick up parts. No, I don't. That's what I have soldiers for. Or then he would say, I'm giving you a direct order. Direct order from an officer means it is a lawful order, that it has to be backed up by law, meaning that a lawful order means that I'm giving you an order that is backed up by law. To give me a direct order to get on the aircraft, we're not in war, there's no reason for me to be there, it's not a lawful order. So I knew my regs too, my regulations too. But he would try to get me on here because he wanted to instill fear. He was a narcissist. He wanted to instill fear. And the one thing he knew that I didn't like heights. So he would try to do anything. He says, you getting ready to get on this aircraft? No, I'm not. You will, but I did not like to fly, and I was not going to fly with him because I did not know what he was going to do. And so it really bothered him because he couldn't figure out how to make me scared. Now imagine, I'm talking about one commander. So imagine these individuals that are in companies that do things on purpose to instill fear. It's like the mafia. A lot of them were like the mafia. People were just petrified of these leaders. And so in the military is a perfect breeding ground for narcissists. Is a perfect breeding ground for narcissists. A lot of times they get out the military though, and they don't have that recognition. They don't have the rank. They don't have that authority anymore. So a lot of times they try to find positions that stay within the government, within the military, so they can do it again and do what they're doing because people know them. So they stay in a familiar place, get a government job in that familiar place with people that already know them, and they just repeat what they're doing. And so for those of you that have asked, yes, the military is a perfect group breeding ground and a perfect hiding place for people that do have narcissistic personality disorder. And for a lot of the military occupational specialties, the MOSs, is a perfect place to breed that because a lot of that is looked upon as good leadership, meaning a no nonsense leader, zero tolerance leader. They're not all in their emotions. They're very straightforward. But the thing about it is they know just how far to go not to get themselves in trouble. They know just how far to push the regulations where they just can't get in trouble. So if you tell, there's just that even when they investigate certain things, it's just that push the limits, like I can see it, but they know exactly, especially the longer that they're in, they know just how far to go. And a lot of them, if you know them personally, a lot of them break rules and regulations all the time. They just don't get caught, and they instill fear in people and threaten, not in verbal, but they always say things, your review is coming up. So, you going to take your pictures for your, promotion board, they throw little innuendos out to let you know I double dare. So it's almost like the mafia. Now, I'm not saying it's everywhere in the military. You have good leadership, but, and I've had excellent leadership. I found good mentors, but I have seen in the military, you're just going to see some stuff. You will see some stuff, and it's perfect breeding ground. Now, keep in mind also for those that have asked, someone emailed me, did ask me that, when you're dealing with, for example, child support or spousal maintenance or whatever, in the military, the way it works is if you have not yet got a divorce, the military, if you take it to JAG, the JAG will let you know per regulation of the amount of money that they have to give you. Now, they have the opportunity to give it to you, or many times the commander will make sure they put out an allotment so that money comes to you in allotment form. And if they don't do it, you can always let the commander know. And if the commander doesn't do anything about it, you still have JAG, and you also have the Inspector General. Inspector General makes sure that rules and regulations and policies are being followed. And if it's not, they're in the ears and the eyes of the general officer of that installation to make sure that rules and regulations are being followed, policies are being followed, and if not, they do an investigation. And so, and it's brought up to the general officers. Most people don't want that. And so what happens is once you have a court order, though, the court order, the military honors the court. So they'll put something in place, and they'll let you know the percentage of what you're supposed to be getting for maintenance until the divorce is final. Once a divorce is final, a child support has been set, you have the right to send the paperwork up to DFAS, the Department of Finance, something, but DFAS is Department of Finance, and you send the paperwork forward, and it becomes an automatic deduction from the payroll. Now, for some people, they're buddy with the commanding officers, and they're buddy, so they don't, your name is smeared. You're this crazy man or woman that, and really it's a matter of that's what the rules say. And if the commanding officer is not assisting, you still have JAG, which is the Judge Advocate General, and you still have the Inspector General, which is in all branches of service, to make sure that laws are being followed, court orders are being followed, and also that the commander makes sure that there's an allotment out or there's an investigation that takes place. And most people don't want their career, messed with or tainted like that, narcissist or not narcissist, because it'll ruin their reputation, and it also hinder them from being promoted and getting into greater positions of power, like the Pentagon or, wherever they're going, or taking over a command or taking over a company or whatever, being in leadership. So hopefully this is giving you a little insight of our world of military and some of the things that people have experienced, and some of you guys out there that are veterans and still active duty in the military. Thank you for your service. So some of the things that we have been through, and that's across the board. That's in all branches of service. Mine happened to be Army, so those were my experiences. But in every branch of service, this is the kind of stuff that we go through, because, the military is breeding ground for narcissism, and for particular backgrounds and jobs that is not frowned upon. It is applauded. It is applauded, because that is how we're trained. Take your emotions out of it and follow the orders. Quit being emotional. You don't need to be so sensitive. And then good leaders know, okay, we need to put the human aspect back into the leadership to help the soldiers. And like my sergeant major used to always say, he says, a good soldier will give you 100%. But an awesome, excellent soldier that has a lot of respect and trusts you will give you 150%. And that's what you're looking for, the 150%. So hopefully this has helped you guys. Hopefully that answers some questions, give you some outlook on what it's like to be in the military. And yes, military is breeding ground for narcissism. It helps to just make it worse. Make it worse. Some of them come out just a hot mess and can't survive when they come out. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is Dr. Carmen Bryant. Give me just a minute. I got to take some food out the oven. I'm cooking while I'm on camera. Isn't that a shame? Sorry, y'all. Yes, I cook, y'all. I cook too. I'm not going to show you guys what I'm cooking. Really, I didn't cook anything. I just warmed up some pizza. So, yeah. Dr. C cooks too. A little bit. But hopefully this has helped. You guys subscribe to my channel. There's Dr. Carmen Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. For the new followers, thank you for being here. If you look underneath the link on the YouTube channel, you'll find www.betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen, which is a sponsored link for those of you that are seeking counseling. Some of you need counseling, not coaching. So some of you that are seeking counseling that need a licensed therapist, these are licensed therapists. I think you get the first week free. It's a very low fee. To subscribe. You can vet the counselor. There's information on there about trauma and abuse, but you can vet the counselor, and it's in the privacy of your home. You do a Skype, you do it online, you do telephone calls, but those of you that really can't find good counselors that understand abuse, trauma, post-traumatic stress, please go to that link. It is www. You see it underneath my YouTube channel, betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen. And go and find yourself a good counselor. Also, if you have not already, I have a book out. It's called Unmasking, the Illusion of Perfection. You can find it on Amazon, or you can find it on Barnes and Noble. You can get an ebook or Kindle, and it's a quick read. It's an easy read. It is a Christian book, but it is giving you, take the principles out of it. A lot of you that are not believers said you got the principles and you found yourself in the book. Those are real people that experienced narcissism, not just what we're teaching, but you get to see it played out, to see what it looks like and why they thought the way that they thought and why they stayed in so long and how their children got abused and, what was taught to them and how did they end up in a situation, what were they thinking as they were trying to get out the situation. So these are real people that are in this book. Thank you so much for your support. Please go to my mentor's YouTube channel too. It is Helen Sadler, Destiny Helper. I do have a Facebook page. One is my professional Facebook page, Psychological Health Consultants and Services, and the other one is my book Facebook page, is Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Make sure you like the pages I do upload. I upload more on the Overcoming Narcissist Abuse because the other one is my professional. So sometimes you get to see the speaking engagements that I have that are not just clinical, but that are also within the community speaking engagements. I have them. And I thank you guys so much. Those of you that have asked, that want to donate, I do have a Cash App and a PayPal link underneath here. Thank you guys so much. You guys have an awesome, awesome weekend. You guys go be great.